Okay, so here we are again. By popular demand, here we are with part 2 of 7 more NFL players who blew their chance at stardom. So let's just start right away with the first guy that you knew I had to talk about. Finally, it's Josh Gordon. So the Josh Gordon arc begins way back in 2012 when he was taken in the supplemental draft instead of the NFL draft. Now, he was selected in the supplemental draft for a reason, and those demons will come out to play later, but for now, he decided to show how much talent he had exactly on the NFL field. After just one season, Josh Gordon let the entire NFL on fire and showed that he was in that 0.1% of talent pool and led the NFL in receiving yards in 2013 with 1,646. Also, just because he had one of the best 2-week stretches in NFL history where in just 2 games, he combined for 24 receptions for 498 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, from the surface, that may look all nice and dandy, but if you're taking notes during these videos, you would know how treacherous of an omen a 2-week godlike stretch really is. Because as said before, this man had demons. Even going back to middle school, Josh Gordon had some huge problems with abusing drugs, and Flemlo Raps made a great video on Josh Gordon's substance issues if you want to learn more, because that's not this type of video. So those demons eventually won the war raging on in Josh's mind, and unlike previous receivers we've gone over, Josh Gordon got the full load from the NFL, getting suspended for the entire 2014 season. But, you know, according to Josh Gordon, he was absolutely chillin' and didn't have anything close to a substance problem. Well, things unfortunately just kept spiraling out of control, and Josh Gordon consistently made first-team all-failed drug test teams and bounced around from team to team until he found himself out of the NFL. But hey, he got a ring with New England from the couch, so that's a thing, I guess. Good old Eddie Lacy was drafted back in the 2nd round of 2013, and immediately he exploded onto the scene, spearheading a Packers offensive run game, making the Pro Bowl and bringing home Offensive Rookie of the Year. And the Packers obviously knew his potential and rode him as hard as they could, as after getting the job full-time, Eddie Lacy averaged 20.7 carries per game, converting that into 86.7 yards per game and almost a full touchdown. I don't know how else to say it, but in 2013, with a banged up Aaron Rodgers, Eddie Lacy kind of just carried the team and willed them straight into the playoffs. So all was well in Green Bay, except for the usual playoff stuff, but Eddie Lacy now had an issue going forward. Ever since he was in college, there had been questions about how passionate he really was about the game of football, and questions of his weight would begin to emerge during Packers training camp. And similarly to the previously discussed Sammy Watkins, Eddie Lacy wasn't a huge fan of people just calling him fat on the internet. So when you take his mental health problems into account and add on the fact that he had begun to rack up some serious injuries, which led to his carry count slowly being reduced during his 4 years with the Packers, and that seems like the perfect formula to derail a career. And that was kind of just it for Eddie Lacy, as after a 2016 season with the Packers, he decided to leave and found himself in Seattle, who, remember, after Thomas Rawls' injuries, were still desperate for the next Marshawn, and yeah, things just didn't work out. So after the Packers fumbled Eddie Lacy, let's look at another guy who kind of just fell off the face of the earth out of nowhere. Clinton Dix. Still maybe the best name in NFL history. Clinton Dix. It's not his actual birth name, but, you know, I could care less. Anyway, was drafted to the Packers 1 year after Eddie Lacy in 2014 and had all the tools to be a perfect safety. At 6'1", 211 pounds, the young would join an already very solid Packers secondary led by Sam Shields, Morgan Burnett, and Micah Hyde. And things were just in perfect position for him to slide right into that secondary. And hey, yeah, things went pretty well early on, as he consistently was ranked as one of the best free safeties in the league, finally making a well-deserved Pro Bowl in 2016. So once again, all was well in Green Bay, But now had begun to develop some pretty bad habits. So, you know, after delving through hundreds and hundreds of hours of research and statistics, I diagnosed Clinton Dix with Trayvon Diggs-itis. In his time with the Packers, it was just a steady slope of consistently trying to jump balls way too often, giving up massive point swings in the process. And if you're not as talented as exactly Trayvon Diggs, then you just can't get away with this style of play consistently. So he did the usual veteran thing, bouncing around from Chicago to Vegas to Washington to Dallas, and eventually decided to call it a career, ascending to the football afterlife, leaving a lot on the table. Now, let me introduce you to one of the very, very rare guys who blew their chance at stardom not once, but twice. Terrell Pryor was drafted by the Raiders in the supplemental draft in 2011, and right away his expectations were cloudy. Although he was clearly insanely talented and athletic, it didn't look like he could be a quarterback on the Raiders at least, who at the time already had Jason Campbell, a competent quarterback, and had just brought Carson Palmer out of retirement. But just like most things the Raiders touched, they torched their QB room, and in just 2 seasons after burning it to the ground, left Terrell Pryor as the only man standing. And with the keys to the offense in 2013, it was clear that his skills from college did not transfer well at all, as he simply just could not throw the ball. And statistically, in 2013, he was the worst quarterback in the league that year. But he has the longest run by a quarterback ever, and I was at this game, so that's cool. Anyway, the Raiders had enough and canned him, where it would take a whole year until he came back into the league, finding himself in Cleveland, this time deciding to change his position to wide receiver. Anyway, miraculously, 1 year later in 2016, this former quarterback shocked the entire league, becoming a 1,000-yard wide receiver with the knowledge and ability to read defenses like a quarterback. So after his supposed breakout year, Washington decided to take a chance on Terrell Pryor and signed him to a 1-year contract. But the injuries finally caught up to him and completely devoured any semblance of hope he had being a star receiver. I mean, every other time he stepped onto the turf, he broke a new bone, and finally he got taken out by his fridge, ending his career. No, I'm lying, but what if, right? So Justin Blackmon was your prototypical guy who had all the talent in the world and just blew it all. And just to back up that claim that he had all the talent in the world, he was drafted 5th overall in 2012 by Jacksonville and had ridiculously high expectations, as he should have. And unfortunately, immediately he showed us all what the theme of his career would be, as he got arrested even before playing a single game in the league. I mean, at least it's not weed this time. So, I mean, before he had even played a single game, Justin Blackmon had already done a pretty perfect job of sabotaging his own career. And the sad part is, he showed small flashes of greatness, teasing Jaguars fans of what he could have been, as he would have random explosions like a 236-yard performance versus Houston. But he just couldn't stop with the drugs, racking up suspension after suspension, and after just 4 games played in his sophomore season, he found himself suspended indefinitely by the league. And when given that small lucky opportunity to redeem his career, what did Justin Blackmon do? Well, he pioneered the technique later used by Josh Gordon called the art of denial. And although his NFL career had already just been completely mutilated to this point, I guess he just didn't have the help he needed off the field, because he just kept spiraling out of control, eventually getting a DUI arrest of him leaked, leading to him being sentenced to a whole year in jail. God, just such a shame. Sheldon Richardson is a textbook example of a what the hell even happened to this guy type of player. As the big boy Sheldon came into the league with extremely high hopes, being drafted to a massive market in the New York Jets 13th overall in 2013. And immediately he lived up to all the hype and more, winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year and followed that up with a Pro Bowl selection the following season. But after 2014, inexplicably, Sheldon Richardson just stopped improving and never became a Pro Bowler again. In the 2015 season, he just seemed a little off, as he only missed a few games, but his overall stats took a massive dip from the year prior. But unlike most defensive tackles, Sheldon never had any huge injury concerns on record. So in my opinion, obviously I can't prove it, but he seemed like a guy who got the contract and wasn't exactly thrilled to go out there every single Sunday to sacrifice his body. But yeah, after his 2015 season that was headlined by one of the wildest titles to an article I've ever read on an NFL player, he never recovered again. So just like that, his potential perennial Pro Bowl career was just shot, and he bounced around from team to team, eventually bowing out after a 2021 stint with Minnesota. Now for the last guy, I just gotta say, there's a lot of misinformation on Kelvin Benjamin. In the 2014 NFL Draft, the Panthers drafted Kelvin at the end of the first round, and at 6'5", 240, it looked like he was ready to be the perfect weapon for a prime Cam Newton. And you know, he was, as he finished his rookie campaign with 1,008 yards, tying his Pro Bowl teammate Greg Olsen's total exactly, and in the legendary 2014 wide receiver class, Kelvin Benjamin came in at 3rd in the NFL, only behind Mike Evans and Odell Beckham's record-setting rookie seasons. Now, I know I'm kind of cheating by having Kelvin on this list in the first place, but it's just incredible how one play can just completely change the trajectory of a player's career, as Kelvin Benjamin tore his ACL in Week 15, keeping him out of activity for a whole year. And the reason I'm even talking about Kelvin Benjamin in the first place is because the one season that he would miss would be the iconic 2015 Panthers season where they went 15-1 and made a Super Bowl run with Ted Ginn Jr. being their wide receiver 1. So during this ridiculous season from Cam Newton where he would go on to win the MVP, he did all of that without his best weapon, and poor Kelvin had to watch this entire memorable season from start to finish from his wheelchair. And you know, Kelvin Benjamin bounced back pretty well in 2016, as he played pretty okay with a near 1,000-yard season in only 13 games. Then, tragically, his mother would pass away in July of 2017, and this hit Kelvin Benjamin pretty hard. Unfortunately, he turned to some unhealthy methods of coping, and his NFL career would suffer greatly as a result. And since the NFL is a business, the Panthers couldn't keep dragging dead weight around and traded him to the Bills, where things just kept getting worse. He wasn't able to produce anything close to what he once did in Carolina, in Buffalo, and he ended up calling it a career just after one season with Buffalo in 2018. So although so much went wrong with Kelvin Benjamin, all of that was just swept under the rug, and his career is remembered with one singular clip.
When you look at Kelvin Benjamin, guys, he's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Man, poor Kelvin. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you've watched part 1 already on 7 players who blew their chance at stardom. It's pretty good, trust me. Also, if you like this video, then subscribe, because I got a video coming out this Saturday that I think you're really going to enjoy. Anyways, until next time.